when contracts is a problem for many workers in this state. It creates uncertainty in terms of pay and also how many hours a worker will do from week to week. It leads to exploitation in the workplace, a hollowing out of workers' rights and deep anxiety and stress for the workers involved. We know, and you know, Minister, from your previous brief, that many of these workers actually do 30 hours a week for years and yet are left on lower 15-hour contracts. This has an impact on access to social welfare payments, an ability to get a mortgage and an ability for these workers to provide for their families. These are workers, Minister, who do get up early in the morning, but they do so with uncertainty hanging over their heads. On Monday, the Mandate Trade Union launched a Secure Hours and a Better Future Charter. Are you aware of that charter, Minister? It is calling on all TDs to sign the charter. Will you and your ministers sign the charter? Yesterday, the Taoiseach accused my party of playing politics with people's misery and of not being solution-focused. You know that's absolute nonsense, Minister, and it's a desperate attempt by the Taoiseach, time and again, to avoid responsibility for problems created by your government. But let's look at this issue. Last July, I brought forward a bill to address the issue of if and when contracts and to bring about fairness. The essence of the bill was to ensure that a worker's contract simply reflects the hours that they actually do. These are workers in the hospitality sector, the retail sector and other sectors as well. The bill was an earnest attempt to provide a solution. And what was the response of your government, Minister? It was to oppose the bill and to pretend that the problem does not exist. The bill passed, however, and it was fully scrutinised by the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation. The committee spent 13 hours over 6 sessions hearing from 44 witnesses, and in the end it produced a report that made 23 amendments and recommendations. What was the government's response? To produce a bill of your own. But your bill, Minister, is woefully inadequate. It will not ban zero-hour contracts, the bans are too broad and the look-back period is too long. So my questions, Minister, are this. First of all, do you accept the report from the sectoral committee, the Committee for Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation, and the amendments that they suggest? I do, and I will support them. Will you ensure once and for all that exploitation in the workplace in terms of if and when contracts becomes a thing of the past? Will you support the Sinn Féin bill? But also, will you and your fellow ministers and Seach Dóla from your party sign the Mandate Charter for secure hours and a better future for workers?
Thank you, Deputy Minister. First of all, I roundly reject the suggestion that we are pretending this problem does not exist. It was our government, and indeed I with the then Minister Jed Nash, who commissioned the work by the University of Limerick on zero-hour contracts. And it is on the back of that work that we have held consultations not only with the trade union movement but also with the employers to ensure that we can bring forward legislation. That legislation has already been announced in terms of the heads of the bill, and we are moving now into the proper legislative phase. Let me also say that one of the issues here is we have seen, because of the recovery in the economy, a very considerable reduction in the involuntary part-time working. That was a very serious problem, but thankfully is reducing. So we are seeing progress in this. We are seeing less of these self-employed contracts being put in place. But we want to make sure that we protect precarious workers, and we are bringing forward legislation in this area. We are also, as you know, bringing forward protections for people who are in self-employed situations. And many people in the course of the recession entered into self-employment not out of their own choice. And we are introducing new protections for such people, including protection of an invalidity pension, access to treatment benefit, access to paternity leave, and it is very clear that the government is keen to extend further protections to people, not only those who are in precarious work under employers, but also those who find themselves in self-employed positions. So we want to make sure that hard work is rewarded, that people are protected. We want to see improvement in the living standards. And I recognise, like others, that the gig economy and those changes that are taking place in our economic framework call for better protections both from social insurance perspective and better protections from employment law. And I was part of a government that brought in very significant improvements to protect temporary agency workers, to improve the minimum wage, to protect where the courts had struck down the registered employment agreements. We have refurbished employment law so that workers can be protected, and I recognise that this is an area that we have to move on, and it was our government, and indeed I acknowledge Jed Nash's role in this, who took the initiative to put us in a position to implement legislation now.
Well, you have not answered my questions at all, Minister. Surprise, surprise. The University of Limerick study that you mentioned, the bill that you are proposing, is not in line with that report and its recommendations. What that report actually committed to was a 6-month look-back. So somebody's errors in their contract would be reflective of the errors that they do over a 6-month period. You were looking at an 18-month period. The bans that you suggest are also too broad to make the bill almost insignificant. So you are not dealing with the problem at all. And to my astonishment, you say that bogus self-employment is not an issue. We had a report from a reporter from RTE that is even an issue in RTE. It's rampant across many sectors. So I'm afraid your head is in the sand, Minister, on this. And the straight question I asked you was that will you sign Mandate's pledge and Mandate's charter to ensure that we have secure errors? Because I'm afraid, Minister, if your bill passes, then that will not be any comfort to those workers who are being exploited. When there's a bill already there, and we will debate this bill tonight, and a report which comes from a sector committee, why not do that? Why not support that bill, progress that bill, implement that bill, and ensure that workers have full protection and not partial protection, which is what you and your government want to provide?
Thank you very much. Minister.
The position is, it's the responsibility of government to bring in legislation that's practical and can be applied and is feasible for all concerned, and that's what we're doing. And our legislation will ban zero-hour contracts. It will introduce protection for people who are on short-hour contracts, giving them recognition for the fact that they are often working longer periods than are specified in the contract. This will allow people to get recognition for that longer hours, so that when they are going to get mortgages, as you rightly say, they have a contract that reflects the actuality of the hours that they work. We're also ensuring that there will be a system of banded hours, as you say. Of course, Mandate or any other group can put forward to the committee who will be considering that legislation possible amendments, and it is for the House to consider amendments in the normal course of events. The way in which we legislate is not by signing the requests of various outside bodies. We are elected here to represent people. We come here, we make decisions on the merits of the cases put forward, and the merits of a case put forward by Mandate will of course be examined by the House when this bill is presented to the House for debate and adoption.
Thank you very much.